What is up, Fanatics? It's 8 p.m. Mountain Time, and that means another episode of Home Theater Fanatics Live. Tonight is episode, 181, I think. It's pretty crazy. And we've got kind of an interesting episode tonight. So, yeah, as Double A says, it is Projector Hour. And I should be live on Instagram as well. And I think I'm actually in the middle of the screen there, and hopefully I have sound and everything. I don't know, but that's an experiment, and we're focusing on the normal stream. But we're going to talk about an event that took place this past weekend. It was actually a 3-day event, and it went from Friday through Sunday. From what I understand, I was there on Sunday, and this was held at a company called The Screening Room. They're a integrator here in Colorado. They're actually down in Colorado Springs, and they they sell home theater, 2-channel, all that kind of stuff, and do installations, and it's really pretty cool. I mean, they have a lot of great stuff and a lot of great people working down there, and it was pretty exciting to have this event. But the event is, I think it's kind of drawn a little bit of controversy, so I'm just going to talk through my experience there and what I thought about it and those kinds of things, for those that were unable to attend. And it's in Colorado. It's kind of out of the way, so not a lot of people were there. But I mean, for the venue, there were a lot of people, but it wasn't like there were hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people there, right? There were probably, I was there Sunday, so that's the only day I know for sure, and there were probably 15 or 20 people there on the Sunday. I'm not sure exactly how many on the Saturday. It was likely more people on the Saturday. And then Friday, I think, was just a private event for a handful of people to look at some other stuff. But the gist of the event is that JVC and Sony, primarily, Epson had one projector there. We're doing a head-to-head comparison of their projectors, and they were all laser projectors except for the lower end JVC. The Epson was on the lower end of the price scale as well. It was laser, but there was one bulb projector, and it was the JVC. So, we'll quickly talk through the models. So, and the price points. Well, I guess before that, I guess I should give a little more foundation. The idea is that this was going to be was a kind of fair, even ground comparison of the projectors. So, a guy named Chris Deering, who's he is one of the more well-known folks that does projector tuning, calibration, so to speak, right? He was there and calibrated all of these projectors, and it was a lot of projectors, and it took him a long time. So my hat's off to him for putting in all that time to set up all these projectors so that they were calibrated as close to as to each other as possible, so that you could kind of have a apples to apples comparison of what you were looking at with your eyes. Now, that being said, there's a lot of stuff that goes into the setup of a projector. The different settings that you can choose inside of the unit. And my understanding is that the Sony rep was there, the JVC rep was there, and they had some input into some of the specifics there to help those projectors put their best foot forward. But the idea is that you should be able to sit down, look at the screen, watch clips, and then kind of see how they compare to each other. And that's exactly what we did. There were a number of reps, manufacturer reps on site. Let me get my list here. Sony was there, JVC, Kaleidoscape, and Panamorph. Although Panamorph, I think he bailed out on Sunday, like shortly after the beginning, or maybe at the first break. I think it was the first break. I didn't get a chance to talk to him, but he's local in Colorado. And for folks that don't know, Panamorph makes anamorphic lenses. They make the vertical compression style new lens that work well with DCI projectors. I've still got an old ISCO, however you want to say it, horizontal expansion, but that helps me with my throw to get it big on the screen. One day I'll step up when I have a pile of cash laying around, but for today it works out okay. Kaleidoscape, everybody knows that I'm a huge Kaleidoscape fan, just absolutely love it. And they were there. The Mountain sales rep Matt was there, and it was nice to speak with him. And I didn't really talk with the Sony or the JVC reps very much, but they were there, and they had comments throughout the exercise. Now, the projectors that were on display, I guess you'd say, there were 8 of them, I guess. So there was an Epson, which is the LS 12,000, which is retail about $5,000. So there were 3 classes, and we'll just talk through them in classes. So in the lower price class, there was the Epson LS 12,000, the Sony, and I'll say the long name, and then I'll just use the nicknames later. VPL XW5000 ES, and we'll just call it the 5,000, the 6,000, and the 7,000 for the Sonys, and then the JVC DLA RS 1100. So we'll call it the 1100, 2100, 3100, and 4100. A lot of projectors there, but this is mostly Sony versus JVC. But on the low end, Epson was in there mixing it up. These were all laser projectors except for the JVC 1100. So it was bulb, but man, say, you're like, oh, it was a bulb, but that it was really good. And I'll get to that as I talk through my thoughts about the different classes. The clips that were used, there were both SDR and HDR clips, and then a HDR clip that was rated at a higher nits level. Now, I'm not a Chris Deering. I don't eat and breathe this stuff all the time, but most content is engineered to or mastered to a certain level of brightness, but occasionally there'll be a movie that's engineered to a different level. And he wanted to show that. So we could compare with those. And that clip was from the Meg. The big shark thing, right? Supposedly super bright. So they had to do some special stuff on that one to make things kind of even footing. But the clips were in SDR, Ghostbusters Afterlife, Gravity, and it was a very, very dark scene. It was a picture of the space with the astronaut floating around in and out, super, super, super dark. And then in HDR, we had a Black Panther scene, which was also very dark, not as dark as Gravity, but it was still pretty dark. A scene from the original Alien movie, which has, I don't know, I haven't seen this in so long, so I don't know, a dude who walks around and there are these gold columns, right? And then he finds like a carcass of one of the aliens, like the skin that it shed. Godzilla versus Kong, when they're fighting in some big city, maybe it's Tokyo, there's a lot of neon lights and super bright weapons and the blasts of stuff out of Godzilla, super bright. So all these big bright neon things. And then Farmageddon, which is an animated show, a movie, and it just animation is kind of a different thing, and it had a lot of different pieces of the scene, right? Some dark stuff and some bright stuff, but when you put all these scenes together, it's there's pretty much a little bit of everything: super bright, super dark, and then what I call pedestrian or kind of typical daylight scenes that aren't super bright but aren't dark and really show off the contrast. So those were the scenes that we watched. All of them came off of Kaleidoscape, except for Farmageddon, which was a imported 4K disc. I think it was 4K. It might have just been a Blu-ray. And I'm not going to go through all the technical specifications for all of these projectors, because you can go and look that stuff up if you'd like to, and look at those specifics. I'm just going to give you my thoughts about as we looked at these comparisons and my take home, right? And I guess my first take home is that I would take any one of these projectors over the projector I have now, which is a Optoma UHD 65, which is fine, but man, it bans way too much. So keeping up with the Jones says that Farmageddon, I don't know about the movie Armageddon. We watched Farmageddon, so maybe Farmageddon was SDR. I'm not sure. It could, I can't remember at this point. Maybe it was standard. But I would be very happy to take any of these over what I have. They're all great projectors, and you kind of get into some fine differences in some ways, but some not so fine differences in other ways. So I think I've covered off on all of the stuff. Oh, this was on a Stewart Studio Tech G4 1.3, I believe. This was a 16:9 screen at about 120 inches, I think. It was not acoustically transparent, so this would never be a screen that I would use in my theater, right? If you're not going AT with your center channel behind the screen, I think it's a fail, right? But that's just me, right? But the screen is supposed to be one that is kind of reference-ish, right? So if you want to compare, this is kind of the screen that you would use, that everybody else would kind of use to kind of do the comparison. So that is what it is. There were no anamorphic lens used or anything like that. So again, not necessarily real world, meaning how you would implement this at home, because if it's me, I'm going to have a scope screen that's acoustically transparent with some kind of lens in front of it, that makes me have the experience that I want to have in my home. This was more of we're going to make this plain, and we're going to really make it kind of an even footing, nothing special, nothing crazy. Let's see what these things look like. All right. So round one, ding, ding. It was the Epson 1200 or 12,000, $5,000 versus the Sony 5,000, $6,000, and the JVC 1100, $7,000. The JVC is a bulb, and the other two are laser. So you're going to have a kind of, I think, theme that you hear me talk about as I go through the discussions here. So ultimately, for me, at the end of the day, on the test, when you compare the Epson and the Sony at this level, they were pretty close. I kind of lean toward the Sony at the end between those two. And everybody has different eyes and sees things a little bit different. People talk about, the crispness of the Sony and this, or maybe the colors or whatever. But for me, I preferred the Sony just a bit over the Epson, and it is $1,000 more. But then you bring the JVC into the mix, and this is what I saw across all of the price levels, right? In the everyday kind of shots, meaning like me right now, just talking in a room or something like that, right? It's pretty. They were all close enough that I wouldn't take pot shots at anybody, right? They were all great. I mean, like I said, I would be happy to have any of them. They were all good. But when you go to those really, really dark scenes, and this stood out with these three projectors, the JVC performed fairly significantly better than the other two. On the black scenes, the contrast was so much better. The darks were darker, and the lights were lighter. It was really, really nice. Now, that being said, if you took and plopped any one of these projectors beside an OLED television, there's no comparison. OLED's going to destroy them all, right? I mean, probably the crappiest OLED is going to look better than any of these projectors. So you got to understand that the black bars, the velvet on the screen edge was way blacker than the black bars that we got, because these were all anamorphic movies on a 16:9. So you had the black bars at the top, or the dark gray bars as they were for any of these projectors. But that's projector world, and that's to be expected. But all that being said, the contrast on the JVC was super, super, super good. And again, I'm kind of a lay person when it comes to this. I don't look at projectors every day, but this really was eye-opening, the difference there. So I liked the JVC in this class. All right, now you step up, and we did. The next was the Sony 6000 versus the JVC 2100, and you're looking at, and I hope I have these prices right. If I don't, let me know, and I will. We can call out a different price, but I believe these are correct. For the Sony 6000, $12,000, and for the 2100 from JVC, $11,000. So just a little bit less than the Sony. Now, as you start moving up into these higher levels of projectors, they get lots of extra features, and there a lot of features were not used in this shootout because they were trying to make things kind of apples to apples. So there's a lot of stuff that I just can't speak to because I've never seen it, like color filters and all this other stuff that wasn't used. And supposedly you can make the contrast even better on, I think, the JVC on the higher end units than we were able to see, just because of the way that these were set up. But at the middleweight, the $12,000 Sony versus the $11,000 JVC, the experience that I had was about the same as the prior set, right? So in regular footage, either or, I'm like, okay, it's so close. The only way you'll be able to tell the difference is if you're just sitting in front of it, right? Colors were slight. I mean, they were calibrated to the right color. I mean, everything was, very, very similar, but you can see some difference in saturation, maybe slight difference in sharpness or fineness. And I think that's kind of personal preference. So one or the other, take it or leave it, whatever. But again, on the super dark scenes, the JVC edged out the Sony, in my opinion. Then we looked at the 3100 from JVC by itself just to see it, and that was 16,000, I believe. And then we got up to the heavy hitters, right? And these, this is the 4100 from JVC at 26,000. It's got a humongous lens on it. I mean, that sucker's big. And then the Sony 7000 for $28,000. So you're about $2,000, I guess, difference, 26 versus 28. But man, we're definitely in car territory now. So, these are definitely not for the faint of heart, I guess you would say. Yeah, definitely not. But again, kind of the same results. As you move up, all the picture quality is getting better and better and better. The performance is better, but I think comparatively, I had the same experience. Now, I was a little concerned about all of this because I really did think that the Sonys would show a little bit better than they did here, and I don't know why the contrast levels were not as good as at least I thought they would be, and I think other folks kind of felt the same way. And I really want to see the Sonys again. Maybe there's firmware or something that could, I don't know, but the JVC did seem to run away with it a bit, like I said, in those special scenes where things were very, very dark, and you could really see the contrast difference. Let me see. So any questions out there or comments? Epson rep wasn't there. No, there was not an Epson rep there that I am aware of. Amazing. JVC is such a leader in the field. Yeah, I mean, they've been around for a while and doing this stuff, and I can't complain at all about what I saw. It was really good. Let's see. Matt Wolfong says, can't stay for long, saw that it was live. Does anybody know when the Sony 6000 actually releasing? I've had Best Buy order for two. I don't know the date. All of these, I think, were pre-production models, or maybe first run model. I'm not sure. But I think there are a lot of people in the same boat as you, waiting for these to come out. But I don't know. And I don't know any of the reps at Sony. I would like to have had Sony or JVC or somebody in on this episode, but I don't know any of the folks at those companies. So if anybody out there knows the folks, please give me an introduction. And then KUWTJ says Farmageddon was SDR, and he also says that it's definitely a reference screen. Giles prefers audio over video, so we never choose a non-AT screen. No, it's not that. I don't prefer one over the other. What I prefer is having an experience that's similar to what you would have at a commercial theater, but even better. And in no world at a commercial theater will you have your center channel above or below the screen. Just isn't done for obvious reasons. So that's what I'm trying to emulate, right? That's what I want. I want the vocals, for the most part, right? The spoken parts, anchored in the center of that screen as much as possible, so that it feels like it's coming from the screen and you don't ever get any of that up or down. So it's not a preference of one over the other. It's a preference of, this is how I want my experience to be. Like I said before, that's my experience. Anybody else can look at it from a different point of view, right? So when you watch television, you can't put center channel behind that, right? So obviously it's got to go below or above, or you just do stereo and then you phantom center channel, whatever, however you want to call it. But for projection on a big screen, I like that center channel. Kevin says, "Good evening, all." Good evening. Hey, good to have you here. Awesome. So it seems HDR hurts projectors more than help them. Uh, well, the thing about projectors in HDR is that at the level that any of us, well, I'm assuming there could be some people that have a lot of disposable cash out there. HDR from a Dolby Vision point of view doesn't exist today, right? I know there are some USTs that are starting to introduce Dolby Vision. There's a Hisense one that's doing it, but HDR10 I think is kind of the max. It's just it's not, the technology is really not designed, I guess, for projectors specifically. On a television screen, right? You can get LCD that can burn your eyes out, right? It's so bright. So it's that's more appropriate for high dynamic range, but not so much on projectors. Does it hurt them though? I don't think it hurts them. I think you just have to know how to treat things, set it up correctly so that it looks good. I like HDR, but I don't have any problems watching SDR content at all. I'm totally cool with that. Are any of them 3D capable? Yes, I'm sure many of them are, but off the top of my head, I don't know. I have to look it up. If anybody does know, please let me know. I'm guessing that the higher end models probably are, and the lower end models are not. And then there's one of the lower end models, maybe I think it's the Sony, that doesn't have a lens memory, right? And for most people, that's just a non-starter. If you don't have lens memory, motorized lens memory, it's just not going to happen, right? Because when you go from that 16:9 up to a scope movie, you got to zoom it in, right, to get rid of the bars, and you just gotta have it. So Joneses says HDR is definitely challenging for projectors, even with the JVC's dynamic tone mapping. OLED is definitely beating any projector. Absolutely, I agree. Kills me to say it, but it's true. If you put Mad VR Envy Extreme, so Mad VR, they're a wonderful company. And then there are two companies that are kind of leaders in that realm, Mad VR and Lumagen. Lumagen uses the older FPGA kind of technology, so that chip just does one thing and it does what it does. The Mad VR Envy is based on I think a Linux kernel, so there's a lot more that they can do with that, and they can give it a lot more horsepower with the GPU and that kind of thing. So I think in the long run, the Mad VR Envy Extreme is more powerful than the Lumagen, but there's a lot to be said for both the products. I own neither of them, so I can't. I would be happy to own either of them. But the one take home though is that any external video processor can't change what your projector is capable of, but it can add a lot of features that your projector might not be able to do. So, like if you want to have like some automatic aspect ratio adjustment and all that kind of stuff, right? That it's really, really cool. And like there's a adaptive stretch kind of setting that you can use to stretch. They're really cool, and I think they're wonderful products. And I will dip my toes into that market one of these days. But just remember, they can't make a projector do more than what it can do, with its hardware. They don't change the hardware. So he says you get damn close to an OLED with a Mad VR. Let's see what else we've got here. I agree that 11K for the Mad VR Envy Extreme is quite a bit of cash. You're probably looking at a $1,500 computer, and then the rest is everything else that you pay for there. But is it worth 11K? I think that's individual person's decision. If you're looking for the best experience that you possibly can have, though, that's something that has to be paid. No question about it. A Facebook user. Hello, Facebook user. No value quite like Epson. Agreed. Agreed. Okay, so this is one thing that I've heard people say before. So you can take a HTPC and run Mad VR on it, but when you do that roll your own, all you can watch is content out of a tool that you run on that PC. So you can't take like an external Blu-ray player, 4K Blu-ray player, and feed it into your PC and capture that, and then watch it. Now, I think that MadVR is just using hardware off the shelf that you can buy anywhere, and it's just their software that's the special sauce. So any of us could probably build a PC to the exact same spec with off the shelf parts with MadVR. But I think where things are locked down is only their special code in their commercial products will allow you to do the modification or tuning of the video that comes from an external source, right? So you have to use something like Kodi, XBMC, whatever you want to call it, and Play to use the roll your own, install it on your PC free-ish version. All right, we have, am I still going here? Yeah, I think I'm still going here. Check. All right. We have Matt says the Sony 6000, 7000 are 3D compatible, but you need to get a 3D emitter and a mini jack sync cable. I don't even know what those things are. Maybe the 3D emitter is for glasses. That would seem to be what it is. The 5000, the low end, is not compatible at all. And he says he got his 3D emitter and cable from Expand Vision. Cool. That's awesome. Awesome to know. More stuff to learn about the Sonys. We talked about the release dates. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that, Matt. It's all good. All right. I bet in 5 years, OLED will be 120 inches and more affordable than these projectors. So here's my my guess for the future. I'm going to predict the future. I don't think they're going to be selling 120-inch screens in Costco. You get to the point where things are just too large and you get into breakage and that kind of stuff. But what I think they will do is at some point, the tile style of television will come into vogue for those that want to go that big. So you could buy, the equivalent of 4, I don't know, 60-inch televisions, right? And tile those together into a 120-inch screen, right? And then have, the hardware. They'll bake it in somehow so that it knows that there are 4 tiles and you just plug it all in and it's good to go. And maybe there's a big frame that you put together and it snaps in or something like that. I don't know exactly how to look, but I think that's going to be how we get into the larger aspect ratio or larger size screens. And you can see that already with I think the Samsung The Wall, I think it is, and those kinds of things. So I agree that all that stuff is coming. Is it going to be within 5 years? Man, that's another good one. I don't think so. I don't, I think we would be hearing a little bit about, okay, they have this product in development and it's coming. So I don't think, okay, let me read a little more into your statement. So in 5 years, 120 inches of OLED will be more affordable than these projectors. If you're talking about the $27,000 projector, then maybe you can get something at that price range. If you're talking about the $6,000 projector, I don't know about that one. So I guess it would depend on which one you're talking about. Sony, they did HDR10 plus, from what I understand. I think they do. They definitely were playing the HDR content that was out there, and it was HDR10. Based on what you saw on the shootout, would you get the RS2100 to get the RS1100 and pocket the change? Okay, all right. So I think this is a good time for me to give the overall impression that I have. So Bullnut17, thanks for the question. Because this is important. If I were spending my money on any one of these projectors, I would buy the RS1100. And I know it's not a laser, and it's not as good as the higher end JVCs or Sonys, but I think at the price point for the performance that you get, it in no way is economical because it's $7,000. And maybe you can get it for $5,000 from a dealer street price or something. Who knows? There's always wiggle room with the dealers. So don't pay retail MSRP. But I would absolutely go with that one and save the rest of the money. Cause you're looking at $9,000 in difference or something like that, or between the 11 and the 3100, and then from the 11 to 2100, $4,000. That $4,000 could go a long way toward other things, and I don't think you'll really miss it too much unless you're just like the biggest home theater buff and you spend a lot of money on this stuff. Then yeah, spend $27,000, dude. Get the big one. Absolutely, you should. It's better. It is demonstrably better. But I think if you are more of a cost conscious buyer, and I'm very cost conscious about everything, I think for the performance, that 1100 is absolutely stupendous. I mean, it's really good. I would totally I would totally do that. And thanks for that question. Double A says 128 screens won't fit down basements. No, you have to have them. You'd have to do like a tile version, right? 128 screens, it's humongous, right? You can't move it around. A projector screen, you have to assemble it in the room where you're going to hang it at, right? So that's another issue. You might be able to get a 128 screen like into a living room that's by a front door, but when you start trying to make turns and go downstairs and stuff, probably not going to happen. Probably not going to happen. All right, Gary says the LS1200 does HDR10 plus. Okay, awesome. I'm going to assume that it does. So thank you for that. That's great. JVC stops dealers from giving discounts MSRP only. Yeah, I've had many a dealer offer me discounts off of MSRP. Just saying. I'm not going to call out the dealers. And I've never done business with the screening room, so I've never talked with them about pricing. So I'm not talking about them. I'm just talking about other folks that I've talked to in the past have offered discounts. So bad dealers who did that. Shame on you. JVC would be outraged if they knew what you were doing. How does the Epson 5050 compare to the RS 1100? I would guess that the RS 1100 just destroys it. That's just my guess. I don't know. I have never seen the 5050, but if the 5050 is not as good as the 12,000, then for sure the 1100 is going to be better. But I've never seen the 5050, so I don't know. I haven't seen the 5050 or the 5060 or the 6050s, or there's a whole bunch in that time frame that I'm not familiar with. Good review for the 1100. Yeah, I think so. I mean, I was really super impressed with the 1100. I can't say enough about it. It's really, really great. I think JVC has hit that one out of the park. It looks really, really good. And man, I can't see anybody knocking it. Maybe it doesn't have a feature that somebody wants or something like that. And maybe there's some folks that are like, I'm done with bulbs. I'm only going to do laser from now on out. And it's not a laser. So you have to step up to the 2100 for that. But for me, I'd be so enthusiastically happy to have one of those to mount in my room. And I'm just curious if that would work for me in my room, because I would like to take that and put like a Panamorph Paladin or whatever it is, the vertical compression anamorphic lens on it. But I think I might end up with throw problems in my room. So I have a smallish screen. It's like 113-inch scope, right? But I've only got about 13 feet of throw. So I don't know if the 1100 with a vertical compression lens would be able to fill up 113, 114, whatever it is, scope screen with a 13-foot throw. If anybody out there is a projector specialist and knows off the top of your head if a 1100 could fill a scope screen with a lens at 13-foot throw of a 113-ish diagonal lens screen, please let me know, because that's a question I'm going to have to figure out at some point. All right, so Popcorn. Hey, Popcorn. I was going back and forth between the JVC NX7 versus Optoma UHZ65. So, and you got the laser Optoma. Oh, I've never seen the UHZ65. I would love to see it. It's not DLP, I guess, like the regular 65 is. And my knock on the 65 is that the contrast isn't very good, and it bands like crazy. I mean, it's like color, looks like a rainbow, right? So I'm really unhappy with it. It's not all the time, but there are certain scenes where it just bands up, right? And it's just like, woo. And so I've been living with that for a number of years now, and the price point was right, and it got me a projector, and it's still there. One day I'm gonna upgrade to something. I don't know what it's gonna be, but Optoma has been great. I had to send it in for service for a firmware update once, which is a weird thing, right? You can only do on this model, the firmware update, it has to go back to the factory to be updated, which is super annoying, right? I want to update my firmware. Why can't we do the firmware? But anyway, that's a whole different story. Plastic lens on the Sony 6000. I don't know. Let me maybe I can share this up and we can look at some of the stuff. So let me see. Share screen. Let's do a Chrome tab. Sony. There we go. Share. All right, and then I'll add this in. Add the screen. Okay, and I think this might get a little squirrely for those on Instagram, but bear with us. There's 16 of you out there watching right now. But okay, here we go. So question was about the 6000. All right, this guy right here. So it's a native 4K SXRD laser, 2500 lumens. It's got an all-new native panel, wide dynamic range, flagship level X1 dual database processing. Okay, blah, blah, blah. I don't know about the lens on this. Picture position memory. I don't think this one has got a. I don't think it's got a motorized lens memory though. I think it's got the memory, but I don't think it does the stuff automatically. Well, it just says it's got motorized lens zoom. I guess it does. All right. Okay, and then wide lens. Well, you can use your legacy anamorphic lenses with ease. And then they show that looks like a Panamorph lens to me. I wonder how this would work with the cylindrical ISCO lenses. I don't know. It says vertical stretch. What the heck is that? I know horizontal stretch and vertical compression, but I've never seen a vertical stretch lens. So that must be a lens that I'm just completely unfamiliar with. So I don't know. So I don't know. I don't see anything talking about the lens material specifications, display, light source, processors, all kinds of throw ratios. Yeah, I don't know. It might be plastic. I have no idea. All right, let's go back. Hey, got my face back again. Okay. Choice between Sony 5000. Oh, maybe the 5000 Sony's the one that's not motorized because that's the lower end one. Yeah, I think that's what it is. I think the 5000 is not motorized and the 6000 is. If I had a choice between the 5000 and the Epson, I'm going Sony. So Bobby Digital, I'm going to pick the Sony on that one. They were pretty close though. But I'm gonna go with the Sony. After watching Top Gun 2 the second time, my buddy said there's no TV that can do that movie justice. If you're talking about experience and you want a big screen, then I think you're right. Unless you get like 140-inch The Wall from Samsung, that might do it. But it's nice having a humongous screen up there to look at that stuff. Yeah, only a projector and full surround sound with Atmos and subwoofers. Yeah. Still waiting for that Panamorph lens video. Yeah, well, we for a Panamorph specific thing, I don't think Panamorph is going to loan me one out to play with. So it might be a while waiting on that one because I'm not about to pony up money for a Panamorph lens today to use with the projector that I don't own. Now, if I had that 1100, man, I might have to find a way to get the lens for it because that thing's so good. I think what I'll do is wait a couple of years and try and find one on the used market. Maybe I can get it for 3,000, half price or something. At 3,000, I'm in. I would buy one right now for 3,000. I just no problem. For 6,000 or 7,000, I can't do that. We're trying to save up some money for some property and stuff, so can't make that big of an investment. But that's kind of my projector upgrade thing. A couple of years out, try and find one of these guys that's used and try and pick something up that's not too inexpensive. And then, just understanding that maybe I'll need to put a new bulb in or something like that. All right. So I think I've caught up with all of the questions. If anybody has any other questions, please get them out now. I do, before we close, I do want to extend a huge thanks to the screening room. It was really awesome for them to put this event on. And I know that it had to be tough to get all the projectors wrangled and then to get Chris to come in and do all of the setup there. And he said he was never going to do this again. He said on Sunday, he said like 2 or 3 or 4 times. He's like, I will never do this again. I'm not going to come in and calibrate 8 projectors for a shootout like this again, ever. I think it was just a ton of work, and I think it was really hard for him. So I appreciate him coming in and doing that as well, because it was really educational for me. And I appreciate the screening room for doing it too, because it's nice to see things on a very level playing field, so that you can kind of understand really what's going on and be able to make educated or develop educated opinions about things, so it's not so much of a guess and that kind of stuff. So thanks again to all the crew on that side of the house for putting the event together, and for extending invitation and giving me a seat there to come and check stuff out. So for all the folks out in the audience, Bullnut, Double A, Bobby Digital, Edgar Zamundio, Anthony Shiro, Gary Foe, a bunch of Facebook users, Matthew Wilfong, I think, and if I'm messing up your names, I apologize. Keeping Up with the Joneses, who else? Let me keep scrolling up. Hi-Fi Haven, thanks for coming. I'd love to see everybody here in the audience. Yeah, those are the folks that I can pick out. Oh, you're welcome, Double A. I'm glad to, and it's kind of fun to see this kind of stuff. I would say that anybody that can make it down to CEDIA in September, you should go down and check that stuff out. There's going to be a lot of good gear there, and it's kind of a B2B show. But if you really want to go, I'm sure we could find passes from some company to get you on the floor there. I'll be going as press, and I'm going to take a bunch of pictures and video and make a bunch of reels and that kind of stuff, and get that content out there. Okay. I think I have talked to my voice out for the day, so we're going to go ahead and close it up. Wonderful event, and I can't wait for the next screening room event. It was super educational, and it's really helped me understand what I want to look for in a projector. And if you guys are looking to make a purchase from someone, hey, why not look up the screening room and give them a shot? I don't get any kickbacks, unfortunately, but you can tell them I sent you. Maybe I can twist their arm one day. I don't know. At least they'll like me more knowing that I helped them get a customer. Yeah, please give them a look, and if you could send them a note and say thanks for the coverage. It was really nice. Oh, also, they're going to have their own video for this too. So I'm not an official video for the event, right? I'm just a dude that was there, right? But they filmed and we'll have a real video with the reps from Sony and JVC and probably Epson and everybody else in the video, and that will be the official word from the screening room. This is obviously just me and my business and my 2 eyeballs in my thinking, but they will have their own out. I don't know where it's going to be at, probably YouTube and probably Instagram, although I don't think they have an Instagram, so I think it'll probably be YouTube in some way then. They should have Instagram, and hey guys, if you need any help, let me know. We can figure this thing out for you. But I think I don't think they have one at this point. All right, everybody. Thanks so much, everybody. Oh, man. Percy, no, you missed it. It was so good. We were talking about all the stuff that you wanted to know about. Oh, please watch it back. It'll be on YouTube. It'll be on the secondary YouTube channel. It'll be on Instagram too. I'm going to upload it. But we're also going to Twitch and to Twitter now. And I think I actually have Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. 5 platforms. So hopefully, I get a few views off of it. All right, folks. Take care. See you guys next Tuesday in the next video.